Well, I'm excited. Hello and welcome everybody to this week's video. My name is Jules and I am a little bit sick, but I think that's mostly going to contribute to my editing load and to my voice. So the show must go on, but yeah, we're working with it. I am so excited to share with you today some new art supplies that, as of filming this, I only got yesterday. And they are the Derwent Inktense pencils. So this is the selection that I've chosen. As usual, I buy my pencils open stock. And these are these pencils by Derwent. They look like this. They have a really luxurious navy lacquer to them. And they're basically like a watercolor pencil, except instead of a traditional watercolor formula inside, it's ink-based instead. So they are, as the name suggests, really very intense bright colors. And I've been looking over the color palette for a long time now and imagining which colors I would choose. And when I was on the way home from the airport yesterday, I realized that one of my stops was in a town with a really good art supply store. And I thought, you know what? Post-vacation treat, why not? One feature of the Derwent pencils in general is that they tend to come with this barcode on the end. I've left one on here so I could show you. And I took them off all the others because I figured nobody wanted to watch that. But these barcodes really bother me. But they do tend to come off quite easily if you just peel them sort of carefully so that they don't rip. So yeah, the barcodes, they're annoying, but they do come off. And then you have a nice, shiny, complete pencil. You can see some of these are brand new. They still have the factory sharpening on. And some of them I have owned for a little while now. But I thought that maybe having a very limited colour palette like I did with my last selection, which is something like 3 colours I think, might be holding me back from using them. So I thought I would invest in a few more. And now I have 18 to swatch with you today, and that's exactly my plan. I have drawn up a nice grid for us, and I think it will be really nice to have a chill Sunday morning sit down and look at colours with me. So grab a cup of tea, hit like on the video if you enjoy seeing new art materials and swatching videos and all about colour, because I have plenty more where this is coming from. And then let's get started. Okay, so what my plan is that I've drawn up this grid with 18 spaces for my 18 colours. And I'm going to draw, because it's a situation where you have a pencil where the dry pigment can look quite different to when it's activated with water, I'll do like a little square of the dry pigment. And then I have a brush and some water off to the side, and then I'll activate them immediately so we can see how they look with water, which is the most exciting part. It really is like alchemy with these pencils. This is Canson XL watercolor paper, so nothing fancy. And I figured it would probably be quite good considering that these are, you know, not like a granulating watercolor or anything. They just need water, paper that can take up a little bit of water. So let's get started. So this is my only red colour that I chose, and its name is Paprika, which is a fun one. And you'll notice that there's a kind of a weird selection of colours that I have today. And this is because the Inktense pencils, according to Derwent, have like a very limited light fastness, especially in the pinks and warm reds, cool reds colour range. And so I was really trying to pick from like 3 of the reds which have an even halfway decent light fastness rating. And I know that light fastness is a sticky subject sometimes, but the problem is I don't like using supplies which I know will disappear immediately if I accidentally leave them on my coffee table for 2 months, you know? So yeah, I wanted to pick colours which had like a halfway decent light fastness, even if it wasn't like perfect. So this is Paprika, and as you can see, it's a really nice sort of vermilion colour when it's dry. So let's add some water and see how it looks. So zoomed in so we can see a little bit better, and I'll just activate. Wow, These truly do live up to their name. They are so intense. And they really do go so vibrant. And I chose this red. I swatched a few of them in the shop. And one of the other options was Persian red, I think. And I was hoping Persian red would be a bit more on the true red side, but as it turns out, it was also in the vermilion shade, but just in that pinky zone that I don't really like that much. So I chose this Paprika in the end. It does look like more of an orange as it's sitting on the paper right now, but it does dry down a little bit closer to the colour of the dry pigment. So yeah, I really, really love this colour. It looks like actual fire to me. I am happy if this is my only red, and maybe one day they'll release a light, fast sort of burgundy colour, which I would absolutely love. So since this is my only red, I'm somewhat going to counterintuitively go into the browns instead. So this brown is my main sort of neutral brown, if you like, and it's called Saddle Brown. If you've seen work that I've done previously, you might have noticed that I don't tend to go for the more sort of burnt umber browns. I prefer a warmer, more orangey brown. So I tried to fight my instincts to just get like a super orangey brown, because I already have one of those, which we'll see in a little bit, and tried to pick something a bit more versatile. So this pencil, just a little bit dusty, when it goes down, does look like a very true brown. It looks like a very, like an umber colour, basically. But let's see what it looks like when we add some water. Oh, you guys, this sickness is not fun. I picked it up in France and carried it for my whole week of my vacation. So that was fun. But I had a nice time in Copenhagen. Travelled to Sweden with just over the sea there with the train to go see my friend and get a tattoo. That was fun. I hope everyone else is having a nice summer, even though the weather has been absolutely abysmal. But anyway, as you can see, this brown is quite a, well, it looks like quite a vibrant brown. I mean, it's hard to judge with Inktense pencils. One thing I'm learning is that it's hard to judge how much pigment you've put on the paper. And I suppose this just comes with practice if you use them a lot. But this is a really, really nice, it is a warm golden brown, but I think that, especially if you layered it with a bit more of the dry pigment or used it more solidly, then it would look more natural. I think it also dries a little bit duller. And you can see already the Paprika is drying a little bit more red, less orange. Speaking of orangey browns, next up is Baked Earth, which I just think is the most delightful name for a colour. And it really is this sort of like burnt orange colour. I think I bought it for my November colour palette in 2021. So I've had this one for the longest time, I think. There's like, I think I had 4 colours, maybe 5, but one of them wasn't light fast, so I haven't included it in this collection. But this is a really nice sort of burnt sienna colour when it's dry, like this. So yeah, I really do apologise for my voice. I blame all the people at the conference in France. Sorry guys, somebody got me sick. I mean, whenever you go to a conference, you expect to come down with some kind of illness. There's just too many people from too many different places. Unfamiliar germs. But this, this is a stunning, like, really orangey, caramel, bright colour. They do dry a little bit less vibrant than they are when they're wet, which is all right. But I was absolutely in love with this colour and still am. This is, yeah, so to repeat, this is Baked Earth. Really, really nice colour. Absolutely love this one. It's interesting how there's some colours that you're drawn to and some colours which you're not. And I'm much more drawn to the colour on the here than here, even though I know that this colour is very, very useful and beautiful in its own right. All right, so heading into more of the yellow zone, this is Mustard. And this is a very, very interesting colour to me, and you'll see why. So it goes down on paper really, truly this sort of dirty, mustardy brown. They do feel a little bit waxy sometimes if you sort of oversaturate the green of the paper. So I'm still trying to learn how best to use them. But I am excited to learn how to use them in some art pieces more. I know that I also had some great fun on the train home yesterday, experimenting with layering them dry on paper and then sort of mixing them in that way. So this one's a little less dusty, which is nice. But yeah, maybe you can see just in the top of this swatch here, where it's gone a little bit sort of waxy, oily on the paper when I pressed a bit too hard and applied a bit too much. But let's see what it looks like when it's wet. So this colour, I wasn't sure if I was going to buy it in the store, but then I did. And when it's wet, it really looks like a nickel azo yellow kind of colour. And as you can see with these pencils, it's absolutely effortless to just like dilute all of the pigment off the paper. Some watercolour pencils, they have a habit of leaving the pencil marks underneath, which I'm sure you could achieve with these as well. But I think most people really enjoy it when you at least have the possibility to remove all of your pencil marks from underneath. But this is like such an intense bright yellow when it's wet. It does dry much duller. But it's an absolutely stunning colour anyway. It really does just remind me of nickel azo yellow watercolour. And yeah, I really, really love how this one dilutes. Next up we have Golden Sun, which is one of the few light fast yellow colours in this range. So I was a little bit limited in which colours I could choose based on my own limitations. But this one I have is the Derwent Light Fast pencil, which are not, water soluble or anything like this. And I really, really love it in that one. And this one in the Light Fast range reminds me a lot of quinacridone gold, so I was really hoping that this one would do the same, just in pencil form. So let's see how it turns out. So it goes down as sort of like a true, like a warmer mustardy yellow, so maybe a little bit duller than it appears on camera. But when you add water, oh my goodness, that is a stunning, stunning yellow. That's like a true glowing sunflower yellow. I'm so excited to use these more. I think that they're so inspiring. The way that the colours are so bright. I do love vibrant colours. I've been trying to get into muted colours more lately. That's why I made that video about mixing with black watercolour, which, by the way, I bought another option for black watercolour, so there'll be another comparison video coming up shortly on that one. But in the meantime, I'm a bright colour person, and this is up there with my favourites. That's absolutely beautiful. And so last on this row, we have Lemon, which is one of the new colours they introduced this year. And I was really drawn to it because their other yellows, they seem quite intense. And I tend to prefer, if I'm going to use like a lemon yellow, I prefer to use like a softer tone, maybe a bit more pastel even. And this one looks exactly like what I wanted. So I was very excited to pick it up and try it out. I'm very happy that the art store I went to had the new colours in stock. That was part of my, when I took like the hour detour from the train station, I thought they better have the colours that I wanted. I spent ages looking at that colour chart. It's one of my favourite hobbies. I don't know about you guys, but I love looking at the colour charts and swatching charts for different supplies and sort of deciding which ones I would buy. Like when you're a kid and you get given like a catalogue to choose your Christmas gifts from. So let's see how this one swatches out. I'm very excited. Never quite sure how much water to use with these either. I'm finding the water control a little bit tricky to learn. As with any new material, it takes a little while. So this one goes very, very creamy when you add water to it on paper, which makes me wonder if there is like white pigment mixed into it, which is not a problem at all, of course. This colour reminds me a lot of the nickel titanate yellow that I love so much as an alternative to lemon yellow. It is really, really nice. And it's powerful enough to hold its own as a yellow, but it is delicate enough that I don't feel intimidated by it. So there's our first 6 colours. So now I'm going to move into the green spectrum, starting with a lime green. Come on, focus. Yeah, there you go. So this colour is anything but delicate after the gentleness of the lemon, but I chose it anyway because sometimes it's good to push yourself a little bit out of your comfort zone. And one thing I've noticed about this one is that it does have like weird pigment specks in it. Like you can see here at the top of the swatch how it's got like this blue, this more blue-green line there. I didn't see that. It's not like the pencil is contaminated or whatever. It's just, I guess, separation of the colours that they mixed. So if you're using this dry only, you might find that this is really annoying in this particular colour. Not really sure how that happens because you can't see it in the actual lead. There's no spots of blue. I don't really know where that comes from, but yeah. So a little foible of this one maybe. But the main reason I chose this one was because of how, while this is not a colour I would really use dry, I absolutely love how it looks when it's wet. It really turns into this sort of very, very bright leaf green, yellow, chartreuse colour, which I really, really love when it's washed out. It really leans into the yellow. It reminds me a little bit of the Daniel Smith's green gold watercolor paint in that sense. Like you really get the yellow tones in the lighter washes, and that makes it a lot more appealing to me. I think it would be really good for adding like a sunlight through leaves kind of effect to foliage, for example. So excited to play with that one. I am, as usual, dealing with changing lighting conditions here. The weather today decided that it was going to do its best Pacific Northwest impression. So we've had like hurricane level rains and winds, and now the sun is slowly coming through. So hopefully I can keep it somewhat in balance for you, and if not, then I'm sorry. It's kind of beyond my control. Oops, a little bit came off that one. I'm looking forward to it being a bit warmer weather here. Maybe I'll finally shake this cold. I did have the greatest time in Copenhagen, by the way. A really, really nice week. Lots of cool stuff to do there. Would highly recommend for like a 4 or 5 day trip. So as I showed you while I was rambling there, this one is Fern. And let's see, this was also one of the colours that I bought first. And it's this sort of glowing green gold colour when you add water to it. Though it dries a little bit more on the olivey side, and it looks like a really sort of deep olive when it's dry on the paper. And so I think it's like a nice compromise. Maybe it looks a little bit more yellow on camera. Looks a little bit greener in person. We'll see how it looks when it dries. As always, I'll give you a close-up of everything at the end so that we can see the final results. By the way, one thing that is often said about these pencils, because it's, you know, written on the Derwent website, is that these pencils are permanent. So when you wet them and let them dry, they don't reactivate with water. This is something that I have found to be untrue, and many others as well. So this is Ionian Green, which is like a lovely sort of, well, it just looks like basically a paraline green in mass tone here, just in the dry swatch. And we'll see what it looks like when it's wet. But yeah, I found that a lot of the colours, at least on the papers that I've tried, do indeed lift with water afterwards. They are staining, but they're not, I haven't found them to be permanent, but some people have. So, you know, just before you rely on that capacity for layering in your work, do test it. But let's add some water to this Ionian Green and see what it looks like. And I was hoping when I bought this for something that might provide in its lighter states a sort of sage green. And I think that that's kind of what I've got here. It's sort of a muted foresty green. And as you wash it out, it does turn into a sort of muted, it's more muted than like a bright forest green, say. Oops, I've gone over my lines. Can't take me anywhere. But yeah, we'll see how that swatch dries. So the sun came through for a second there, and now we're back to like black clouds outside. I don't know how to deal with this situation, but has to be done now. So moving on, the next colour that I have here is Sea Breeze, which is such a romantic name. I can't believe it keeps getting darker outside. So the Sea Breeze goes down as what looks like a very, very deep turquoise when it's dry. I wanted to pick a turquoise colour because I do find that they can be a bit annoying to try and mix, especially if it's a colour you enjoy using so often. And quite often I find it hard to get exactly the same mix twice as well. So it's nice to have a starting point. So the other thing you can see is that on this paper surface, it's pretty clear that there's like this inconsistency where the pencil is sitting in the grain of the paper. So if you wanted to use it as a dry pencil as part of a piece, I'd probably recommend using a smooth paper, like a hot press paper instead of a cold press, unless you like that effect, but they do feel a little bit waxy on the grain of the paper. So let's just work this pigment into a nice diluted version for us. And this is a really, really stunning turquoise. I really wish that this colour ever came through on camera. But it certainly is a bit greener than it appears right now. I do my best with the white balance, but maybe I'll insert a photo of it afterwards so you can see, as I see it at least. Though I do think that sometimes my perception of turquoise colours is skewed slightly green, just in my brain. So continuing with the blue theme, next colour I have is this lovely light blue called Lapis Blue. So they have a couple of light blues, but I decided that this one was the one that I liked the look of the most. It's sort of the warmest blue. It's also one of the new colours that they released last year, maybe? I've lost track. I'm a little bit late to the game with these pencils. I know they're very popular with people who do colouring, like in colouring books, because they are so easy to fill a large space quickly, especially for backgrounds and such. But of course, an art supply is what you make of it, and you can use these for just about anything, I think, to be honest. The only thing I'd be very careful of is if you are doing original artworks for sale and they need to be archival, then you might need to really be careful about which colours of these you choose, because, yeah. The blues and the greens are mostly fine, but this is a really, really nice colour. I wanted to pick up a lighter blue. I have a lot of blues in this collection, as you'll see, not just because the reds and yellows tend to be not light fast, so the selection is automatically a little skewed, but also because I feel like it's hard to get a good range of blues with a very limited selection of starting materials. And especially with these, I think it might be hard to get light colours because they're so intense that you'd have to use so little of the pigment in order to get a light wash. So I wanted something that you could use to make like a nice light sky blue colour, and I think this is it. It reminds me of the colour that you see on like old Chinese pottery. I think that would make for a really fun set of illustrations. Okay, so last one in this row is one of the first ones I bought as well because it is my favourite colour. It is called, if my camera will focus, it's called Lagoon, which is an excellent name if you ask me. And it goes down looking very indigo, very sort of purpley indigo. So one of my favourite colours just in general, is warm blue. So like a violet-y ultramarine shade of blue. And I was looking for my perfect sort of ultramarine in a lot of different art supplies at this point in time when I purchased this pencil. And I found it in Lagoon. So praying to the weather and lighting gods that this one holds up. You know, maybe if we hit 1,000 subscribers, I'll invest in some better lighting and filming materials because, you know, it is hard with what I have currently to get a really good quality out of it, though I do my best. And as you can see, this is very, very intense. Like, you do not need a lot of pigment to get this beautiful vibrant violet shade of blue out of it. And the fact that this is light fast is absolutely amazing to me, because you could think it looks like almost fluorescent in its bright tone. It looks like a very, very violety shade of Indanthrone blue, like if it kept its vibrancy in its lighter washes. And with that, we're on to the final row here. So starting with, hang on, this one next. Navy blue. So this is another one I picked up at the same time because it was part of my November colour palette, but I also wanted to get the most ultramarine blue possible because that's just who I am as a person. Let's get a nice swatch of this down. This does look a little bit more muted in the dry form. A lot of these darker colours, they really do look almost black when you swatch them out, when you use them dry. But I think that that's kind of nice because I think you could use like the wet, like a wet wash to fill in a shape, and then do the outlines in the neat pencil like afterwards, and maybe that would be like a nice way to get like the toned down outlines that you see in some illustrations, because the pencil is basically just a darker version of the wet form. So let's see what colour we get from this when it's wet, and we can compare it to the other blues when we zoom out at the end. But it really does feel like more of like a, I don't know, like a denim blue kind of colour. I don't know. I know they also have a pencil that is called denim, I think. But this colour reminds me of denim, like a dark wash jeans colour. It's really, really nice. I think especially for like night skies and things like this might be a really perfect colour for that. Try and get a bit more of a gradient. This paper does fight you a little bit when you're trying to make a nice smooth gradient. So for my final my final shade of blue is Deep Indigo. And I wanted this because I often find that I prefer to use an indigo instead of a black, as so many people do. And I wanted a more muted shade that it would be possible to maybe mix with my other colours to tone them down a little bit, because yeah, one limitation of these colours is that, you know, sometimes you don't want the most vibrant possible version of a colour. Sometimes you want something a little bit deeper and more muted. These pencils are also, at least where I live, very, very affordably priced. I think they're like €2 a pencil or something, which, you know, it isn't cheap, but they are also, for like artist grade supplies, they're not that expensive, and they are so fun to play with. Once again, it looks pretty black on the paper, kind of hard to tell that it's an indigo really, but I think when we add some water, oh yeah, oh, that's a really nice colour. I know some people would absolutely love this colour. And when it dries a little bit more muted, I think it will be really, really stunning. Like a really nice, I've seen Payne's Greys that are this colour. They also have a Payne's Grey Inktense pencil. I didn't buy it, but it exists. And I'd be interested to see a comparison, but there are plenty of people out there who did swatchings of the full sets and stuff, which I've looked at many, many a time. I just wanted to contribute my personal colour palette that I chose from this range with you guys. But this is a really, really nice sort of cool, deep indigo that I think is going to dry absolutely beautifully. So now we're heading into the violets. I have two purples. I got this colour aptly named Dark Purple, which is a lovely, deep, muted purple. You really can't tell the difference between the dark purple and the indigo on the paper. Like, let's be honest, they look exactly the same. Oh my goodness, is the sun coming out again? Today is really, like, the weather does not know what it's doing. Let's play, today's game is adjust the white balance and hope for the best. Oh, chaos. I'm hoping, by the way, that I'll be able to get this video out on the same day I'm filming it, which is another very, very optimistic prospect. But this dark purple is my sort of warmer purple, and then the colour that I've got next is Dusky Purple, which is more reddish. But, and I think that a lot of people would say that you did not need both, but personally, I think I do need both. you know, treat yourself a little. So time to activate this with water and see what color we get there. And this is really one of those magical changes. Whoa, you see that? That's incredible. A really, really stunning deep purple. More on the blue side. If I said warmer earlier, I apologize. My brain is a little bit tired. I've done a lot of traveling lately. It was almost weird to wake up today and realize that I didn't have to get the train somewhere. Not that obviously having good access to train travel is a massive privilege. I know that a lot of people don't have that, but nonetheless, it's taken its toll on me. But this is a really, really nice dark purple. I was considering getting a brighter violet, but my problem is I'm not that big of a fan of purple to begin with. Oops. So yeah, I needed to choose things that I felt like I would actually use. And this is one of them. And as I was just saying about my selection of purples, this is Dusky Purple. I was so drawn to this colour. It's like a muted mauve colour, more on the red side. You know, anything that looks even remotely close to Perylene Violet, I'm always absolutely in for. And they do feel nice to lay down on paper, you know, they don't feel quite like a regular coloured pencil. And obviously, like, this colour is not particularly useful dry because it looks so similar to the other deep blues and purples. But I think that it's sufficiently different when it's wet. I think in the full sets of these, they do come with a outliner as well. Oh. Wait a second, hold that thought. This is absolutely beautiful. I really, really love this sort of like muted plum shade of purple. Wow. Just dilute it a little bit more so we can see the full range. That's amazing. That's my favorite. I don't have any projects in mind right now, but these are so inspiring to me. That's really, really nice. Dusky purple, everybody. Maybe it's similar to the like Van Gogh dusky purple or dusk pink, like watercolors even. Looks like a black mixed with a pink to me. And so finally, I chose two neutral colors. I chose neutral grey and I chose storm dust. And so I wanted storm dust because it's a lighter grey, but neutral grey I wanted because of the same reasons that many people would choose a Payne's grey. I think that it helps to mute down colours when you layer them together. And I think if I remember correctly, it goes down pretty much black on the paper. Yeah, very similar to the deep indigo, just a little heavier on the black. Again, feels very nice to use. Some of them are a little bit more crumbly than others, but otherwise I find the texture of these very, very consistent, very, very nice to use. Like I say, I'll have to experiment on different types of paper and see what my preferred method of using them is, but this is certainly very nice. Very nice deep black colour. So it sort of washes out a little bit blue, a little bit violet, sort of like a neutral tint watercolour, which makes sense, I guess. But yeah, it's like an off black. Like in my ideal world, this is the colour that Payne's grey is, but usually the Payne's grey is a little bit more blue. I just really, really love these. Very, very moody, interesting colour. Much more potentially visually interesting than a straight black, though black is great for contrast, of course. And then last but by far not least, we have the Storm Dust colour that I was talking about earlier. And this one, what a great name for a start, is sort of a lighter colour, so it doesn't go down quite as deep as the others, though I'm not sure how well that will show up on camera. I'll do my best to show you in a bit. But yeah, just like all the others, lays down pretty much the same. But I wanted, much like with the light blue, I wanted to pick up a colour that I could use to create like a light grey without having to try and control the amount of pigment on paper so much. Maybe somebody's already, I mean, I'm sure There are so many videos about these pencils. Somebody's done a guide on how to get the right amount of pigment on the paper. I'll have to look it up when I'm done editing this one. So yeah, maybe up a little bit closer you can see how this is a bit lighter than its next door neighbour. It's also a bit more of a warm grey, which I like for variety. You know, we've got a lot of blues in this collection already. And yeah, it's a lovely grey. I think it would be really great for like a cloudy sky. I think it'd also be interesting to play around with getting sort of blooms and textures out of these pencils. I know that you could also use them potentially with that Caran d'Ache plastic palette that's sort of a little bit textured, so you can like lay down the pigment on the palette and then use them like paints for an extra layer of versatility. So here is my entire colour selection that I have from this range. I'm going to let them all dry now, and then I'll put the labels on and we can have a close-up. You'll have to let me know what you think of this colour selection, because I'm very curious what colours other people would choose. I know that some people would say, damn the light fastness, I need my pinks. Very, very valid. I also, yeah, really wish there was a better selection for that. But I really, really am in love with these colours, and I think that they will make for some very, very interesting projects down the line. So mostly dry now, just a couple of damp spots, and you can see I've added the labels. Hopefully they are vaguely legible. I'll also put the list of the pencils I've chosen here in the description down below so you can see easier. But I am absolutely in love with this selection of colours. I think it's going to be so useful to me in the colours that I am drawn to and the styles I like to illustrate in. So I'll just give you a close-up now, just across the rows. So starting with this beautiful bright orangey red Paprika, and then this sort of range of earth tones. Mustard could replace a yellow ochre in a palette, I think. And then you've got this sort of more, I guess baked earth kind of means burnt sienna, huh? Now that I think about it. And also this saddle brown colour is a more neutral brown. And then the yellows I've chosen being the golden sun for a warm golden yellow, and then the lemon being a nice pastel light colour with a couple of bits of dust on it because I blew the dust from the other pencils onto it. Going into the greens, we have this beautiful, bright, juicy, zingy lime green chartreuse colour. Fern, which is more of a natural leaf green. And then this lovely, dark, shadowy Ionian Green, which washes out into a nice light sage colour. And then going into the blues more. The Sea Breeze, as I said before, is a little bit greener in person, but absolutely lovely turquoise colour. And then Lapis Blue providing me with like a nice easy way to get a lighter blue in a wash. And the Lagoon, that beautiful, deep, warm, ultramarine-y kind of colour. I know that they also have a colour called Peacock Blue, which might suit your needs better if you prefer a more greener shade of ultramarine kind of blue. And then moving into the other blues, I've got this navy blue, which is more of a, I guess, a neutral deep blue, and a deep indigo. I love that sort of cauliflower edge at the bottom there. Be interesting to play with that. And then the two purples, the cooler purple and the dark purple, more of a true purple shade, and then the dusky purple, which is more of a warmer, reddish leaning purple. Neutral grey, exactly what it says on the tin, except it is a very, very beautiful, deep and interesting shade of grey. And then finally a lighter shade of grey for convenience, a bit warmer, Storm Dust. Beautiful name, beautiful colour. Absolutely in love with these. And if you've made it to the end of the video, maybe you'd consider liking and maybe even subscribing if you're not already, because this is very sort of representative of the content I usually make, although I'm not usually sick. So yes, apologies again for that. Hopefully it hasn't been too intrusive. And with that, I hope that you enjoyed this swatching and seeing which colours I chose. I'm so looking forward to the discussion we can have in the comments, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye everybody.